back up at the airport this morning and ready to finish out this oil change. We got one more tip that I do to get every last bit of oil out of the oil filter, and then we'll be ready to put the new one on, safety wire it, and go for a test flight. So the final tip that I use to drain the last little bit of oil out of the oil filter is compressed air. I just take the nozzle and I put about 20 pounds of pressure down through the top of that hole, and it'll push the last little bit of oil out of that oil filter. Now the design of the oil filter doesn't allow for any of that used oil to go back into the engine. So now we just gotta plug up the holes while we screw it off. I take the rag. This is the same rag that I used last night to clean up around the oil filter. And when we get all done with this, I'll show you just how dirty everything is. How dirty I get one rag and a absorbent pad. Just cleaning that off and plug this hole. A little bit of electrical tape. I do get to cheat just a little bit because I did remove the vacuum system on one November uniform a few years ago, so I do have a lot more space back in here to move around, and I always use the bigger Tempest oil filters as well. And there we go. Finish cleaning it off. And that's as simple as it gets. We'll get the absorbent pad and the funnel removed, and then we'll prep the new oil filter, put it on, zip tight, safety wire it on, and we'll get ready to run the engine, test it for leaks, and then we'll cowl it back up and go flying. So before I install the oil filter, I always put down the date that the oil change happened, the tack time, and then the registration number. Get one more wipe down on the block for the oil filter. And then I just take my Tempest torque wrench and tighten her down until she clicks. There's 17 inch-pounds. Like a lot of other people that have tried to videotape themselves alone, putting on safety wire, it's going to be really difficult to show you the whole process. But when I'm all done, I will show you how it's attached to the oil filter and where I attach it to the airplane. And then we gauge just about how far it's gonna be to where we mount it onto the block. Now that I've got it marked, I can just grab a hold of it with the safety pliers. And then having it up like that away from all of the hoses, it allows me to get a much more uniform spin on everything on the safety wire. And now that I have the safety wire attached to the block, then I just spin this together as well. Back on itself. And now we're ready to pull out the absorbing pad and one paper towel that I've used. So the next step is pretty much the easiest step, putting the oil back in the plane. I use Phillips Victory for my summer oil, and then during the winter time I use their 2050 blend with CamGuard. Alright, so that's the first of 7. I put in 7 because any more than that, it just blows it out really fast. Alright, so that was the 7th quart of oil that I put in the plane, and that pretty much does it for my oil change. Now the next thing that I'll do is I'll pull the airplane out of the hangar, do a quick little test run, shut it down, check for leaks, and as long as I don't have any leaks, I will cowl up the airplane and then I'll take her for a quick flight. I'm going to show you with the tips and hacks that I use of just how mess-free an oil change with a Mooney can be. I used one paper towel and then one absorbing pad that doesn't have a whole lot of oil on it. That oil filter funnel really makes things super clean. So there's my oil change, and I hope that maybe you can pick up some tips or tricks for your next oil change, and you can see how my technique can make your oil change almost mess-free.